everyone, I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper, and welcome back to Build. Max Greenfield is no stranger to making audiences laugh, thanks to his role as Schmidt in New Girl. But now he's starring in the CBS hit The Neighborhood as Dave Johnson, a man who moves his family from Michigan to a predominantly black neighborhood in LA, where he quickly realizes that fitting in may be more complicated than he thought. Take a look.
Thanks again for inviting me. Grover's had a sleepover, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to come.
How convenient.
You gonna get in on some of this jicama, Calvin? It's in season.
Well, fortunately, so is pizza.
Man, this is great. Nothing like a bunch of guys getting together to watch a big fight. Whoa. I almost just double dipped.
So, Dave, who do you think's gonna win the fight?
Well, I don't know much about these two fighters. But Camargo is undefeated against Southpaws, and nobody cuts the ring off better than he does. Posley does have a 3-inch reach advantage and a pretty solid chin. But I'm rooting for Posley, because I like his purple shorts.
Please help me welcome Max Greenfield. How you doing today?
Great.
You chose like the coldest day of the year to come to New York,
On
by the way.
purpose.
On purpose, really?
Not really.
I was gonna say, does this like hit you? I know you're from New York, but like you've been living in LA, so
It's real shocking.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's horrible.
But like it gives you a chance to wear sweaters that you never wear. And you think about throwing out every once in a while, and then you come out here and you go like this, thank God I kept it.
That's true. Eventually,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go talk about the neighborhood in New York, and here we are.
That's right.
First, I want to say congrats. You guys got picked up for a second season.
Yeah, it's
which is
great.
no small feat, given like how competitive TV is these days.
It's really crazy. You know, having been on New Girl for 7 years and getting to experience that for the first time, to then experience it again, knowing how difficult it is to get a show off the ground and to get even, to get past the pilot and then to get past, or to get, picked up for a full season and to get a second season. It was a very nice moment on set for everyone.
I think it's a testament to the writing and the cast. I mean, when I watch this show, it just seems like fate that it all came together. And it is like obviously really fun and light, but you guys also have the opportunity to explore some really interesting dynamics and talk about some issues that maybe people shy away from. And I love that you're doing it all on network TV.
Yeah, there is sort of like and we feel, I thank you for saying that because we feel that too. There is something sort of magical when a show works and when you feel it work. You hope that, when you feel it work, you hope that everybody else feels that same way too. But it has like an almost unbelievable element to it. You're like, I can't just, this all feels like it's fitting together and working. So it's been just an incredible experience.
What originally drew you to this script and this story?
Well, CBS and I had been trying to figure out something to do for quite a while. And, it was sort of an odd circumstance. They had sent me the script originally, and at that point, it was Jim Reynolds who created it, white guy, and Jimmy Burrows who was directing it, white guy, and Aaron Kaplan who was producing it, white guy. And I was like, this feels irresponsible. I'm not going to be first in on this. Right. So I passed on it, and it was also like one of the first things I had read, and then it came back around much later. And at that point, Cedric and Tashina what I did not know at the time is that Cedric and Jim had sat down and had a very long conversation. And Cedric said, if I'm going to be a part of this, I really need to have significant input on the script and the direction that you're taking this family, specifically the African-American family, because Jim, obviously doesn't have that point of view. And to Jim's credit as a writer, it's a tough thing for writers to sort of like open themselves up and open their script up to somebody else. But he was wide open and let that happen. And unbeknownst to me, that was going on, so that when I then saw the show later on, when they were asking me to be a part of it, it was a totally different thing. And at that point, it just felt like I can't pass this up. It really feels special. It was one of those things where a friend of mine said, okay, well, if you see this show on in 7 years and you had passed on it, are you going to be upset? And I go, very. Yeah. So we jumped in.
Yeah, we had Cedric here a couple months ago, and he said that same thing about how he felt that if he was going to be a part of it, he wanted it to have the right voice and the right tone. And when I watch it, it does, which is so refreshing because I didn't know what I was going to walk into. But like Cedric's character, Calvin, is like so many older black men that I know. And then watching those dynamics play out, they are truly authentic. And some of it's race, but it's also the generational differences as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think, we have a writer's staff that is completely diverse, whether it's gender or age, ethnicity. And those conversations are just taking place on a daily basis, and it's so evident in the scripts. And it's really, again, it's a huge testament to Jim, who showruns the show, that he really is open. And I think it would be much easier for somebody to be like, okay, this is my show, and I have to sort of like I'm gonna keep these conversations happening, but I'm also gonna be the final word in this. And he really takes the time to allow them to sort of develop, and it's really interesting how we shoot the show, in that. We'll read a script on Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll read it in front of the producers, then Friday in front of the network, and the script is always changing. And as actors, you usually don't get to be a part of that process, or you don't get to see those scripts, and we're having to work on them, and then some of them get totally thrown out, and then you're doing another version of it the next day, and you get to see how the writers are sort of pushing the story along and sculpting it and getting it ready for tape night, which is on Tuesday. And it's so cool to watch. And I have not experienced a Tuesday taping where we've been doing a show that hasn't been like really crafted and is so great. And every moment that you're like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right on Thursday. Do you know what I mean? It's always out of there and so much better by Tuesday. Because in the beginning, having this being the first time I've been a series regular on a multicam, those moments can be like, is this going to change? Because you go, I don't know that I'm trying to wrap my head around this. And we quickly just grew an enormous trust for the writers, knowing like, oh, they'll fix it. It's great.
And you have a live studio audience, right?
Yeah.
So what is like that playing these jokes, and does it play in the audience, and is it working? Like, is that a first for you?
I'd done it on a limited basis before. Oddly, I'd done a Will and Grace right before this, which was really great, and which was a definite reminder, this is the type of show I'd like to do. Yeah. But it's been so much fun. The studio audience is the best, because you get their reaction, you get their energy, and it takes you, and you feel very responsible in front of them to really put forth a great show. And I think that, I don't know, it's an added energy, which I love. So I think the studio audience is the way to go.
Storyline-wise, which episode for you sticks out in season 1 as like just one that was just extra fun or really on point, or just something you look back at and laugh? Because for me, it was the birthday episode.
Yeah, great. Which one was it for you?
For me, it was the birthday episode where Calvin gives Grover a knife.
Oh,
I
totally.
thought that was so hilarious, because so many men in my life have pocket knives.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is something I see all the time.
I love that one. It really is, like, when I remember the difference between shooting this and New Girl. New Girl, which is shot traditionally like more like a single cam. And you shoot like a movie. And you shoot so much of it, whether it's improv or it's this or it's that, and editing is such a big part of it. A lot of those episodes, especially when you're shooting them back to back to back, they sort of blend together. And you're like, oh, that was a full season of what about that episode you did? I don't really remember. I don't know what happened. But this is a real week-to-week basis, because of that process that we talked about. You really feel like, when we read it at table, it's a totally different week. and now we're doing this story. So you really do have recollection of each individual episode. We did an episode that I thought was really great. I don't remember what number it was, but it was where Beth Baer's character and I go. It's our anniversary. We go to get a hotel room, and we leave Grover at our son at Calvin's house, and it was a really memorable episode for us because it was the first time you were seeing Dave and Gemma together and in their own story. And we sort of understood at that point, like, directionally where we were going with Dave and Calvin and what the dynamics were with the two families. But it wasn't totally clear who these two were as a couple. And it was one of those episodes where early on there was some, like, draft. The early drafts were, like, it wasn't feeling totally right. And it's a tough thing as an actor to really have that conversation with the creators and the writers of the show, because your job is to act, and they don't want me as a writer, and I don't want to be up there as a writer. But like, there was something about it that just wasn't feeling totally on point to where we were going. And again, a testament to Jim and Ryan Noggle, who wrote that episode. They really like took the time to listen and to hear us and to understand what we were having problems with. And I mean, I just thought did such a beautiful job of creating what has now been established as the dynamic between the two of us. And I loved it, because I was genuinely scared at the beginning, because I was like, I had a feeling of what I wanted from this relationship, and it felt different in the beginning, and then where we got to was like better than I had even what I had originally anticipated. So it was one of those things. It's like, it's interesting. It's like a real trust building exercise, and to have, I think, that trust so early on. Now that I think we just finished our 18th episode. And knowing that we're going to do a season 2, I think finding out the information that we're getting to do another season, it's so exciting, because we all know that we're in a position where, like, we all do trust each other. It's just one of the most incredible ensembles that I've ever been a part of, and it's such a wonderful group that you're like, oh man, I just hope that, like, this continues, because I don't know that it gets any better than this.
You mentioned that dynamic. I love that you pointed that out, that Gemma and Dave, like, we didn't really get to see them.
Yeah.
Because you play with Cedric's character a lot.
Totally. And the pilot is such a situational pilot. And I think one of the things that was up in the air originally was, who exactly are Dave and Gemma? Who is this family? And we don't totally find that out in the pilot. Mm-hmm. It's more of like the situation of what's happening. And I think true to life, if that family moved in, they're the new people, and we're going to learn about them. Mm-hmm. I thought that was like a really important episode, and one where, like, it felt at the time like we cannot get this wrong, because it's going to set a tone that we can't get away from if we can't.
What have you learned from Cedric, if anything, or what is it like with him? Because when he was here, he's so funny and quick. I can only imagine being on set with him all the time.
He's the best. I was so deeply impressed with what he's done with the tone of the show, and what he did with the Butler family and his character, and his sort of keen eye for keeping it authentic. And I asked him early on when they wanted me to do the show, I was like, "You're going to be involved, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And true to his word, he's very, very involved, and it's great. He's the leader on set for sure. He's our number one. And what I find specifically on this type of show where there's a studio audience, what's so wonderful about having him there is that he's so natural in front of an audience, and he comes out, he introduces the show to the audience, he gets their energy up. He's the first one to, like, in the middle of a scene, just do something totally offhanded and crazy, and get the audience going, what? And then be like, all right, I'll do this scene like I'm supposed to. But he keeps it. He sets a very enjoyable tone without ever crossing the line into, like, not being professional. Yeah. I can't say enough about him.
You have this very successful show. You are also doing so much other stuff, though. I will turn on the TV and see you on another show, or I'll see you in movies. I mean, were you ever worried about life after New Girl? Because it seems like a lot of people get typecast, but you've really been able to branch out and choose dramatic roles, like in The Assassination of Gianni Versace, to more funny roles. I mean, that's such a cool thing you get to do.
Well, a lot of them are not choices. A lot of them are like, you'll get a call from somebody and you go, there's no decision here. You just show up. When Ryan Murphy calls you, you just show up. Yes. But yeah, I've been really lucky. And what the one thing I think that we tried to do during New Girl, which I think was really smart, was we were on a network television show. And beyond that, I just wanted to make sure whatever I was doing in the hiatus was something I really cared about. And whether it was like 2 days on The Big Short or, or like Hello, My Name is Doris, which is one of my favorites. It was stuff that I 100% wanted to do. And there was no other motive for it. And we set ourselves up for then having some really interesting places to go after New Girl. Yeah. But then when New Girl ended, I was terrified, and I was like, okay, we're going to really have to sort of, like, try some things here. I went off and did one of the best jobs I've ever had, was a series of unfortunate events. And that was a show that I wasn't totally familiar with. I had just heard that Barry Sonnenfeld was, like, interested in having a sit-down with me. And then based on that sit-down, maybe I got to play the role. And I was like, I want to meet Barry Sonnenfeld. And then watched the show and was like, the show's kind of amazing. Read the scripts. The scripts were, like, incredible. And then Barry and I had one of the funniest meetings I've ever had with anyone or will ever have. And then the next thing I know, I showed up on this set. And I don't know if you ever get the chance to work with Barry Sonnenfeld. Do it.
What is so unique about it?
It just, he not unlike Ryan Murphy, all of the departments on a Barry Sonnenfeld and a Ryan Murphy set are so high level that by the time you go through hair and makeup, by the time you get through wardrobe, and you are on set, which is this whole other department, and you walk onto this, like, Disney World set where you're like, who does this? You have to do so little as an actor because everything is already set for you. You've totally forgotten about the real world because you look the way you do, and you're looking out, and you barely see a camera. You're like, I've been totally transported into a different place. And then, with Barry specifically, the way he sets up a shot and the way he, visually what he can do is unbelievable. The only thing you can do at that point is screw it up.
And don't screw it up.
I mean, you try not to, and he'll tell you if you are.
Great. Even better. And then from TV to the big screen, I actually went to a screening of What Men Want, and there you are. And I was
great.
like, yeah, it's fantastic. Acting opposite Taraji P. Henson, and in a completely different character I've never seen you play before.
It was slightly close to. I mean, there were some elements of like Schmidt in it. I guess.
Yeah, but he wasn't like narcissistic.
No, he wasn't too. He wasn't too bad. There was one scene in the movie that I play a small role in the movie, but there was one scene that sort of attracted me to the movie, and also I was really excited to work with Taraji and Adam Shankman, who directed it. But there's one scene where like my character really bumps up against her, and you think that her being the lead of this film, and you think like all these guys are going to be out to get her, and there's like this one guy who's like, I don't know, kind of a dick, but also totally not out to get her, and it confuses her in a certain way, and she sort of learns in that scene about like herself and what her attitude is, and I was like, I want to do this scene with Taraji, and that was about as much as as I really needed, and it ended up being, a wonderful experience. And the movie, which I had not seen until Monday night, they were like, have you not seen the movie? I was like, I liked watching it at the premiere and see it for the first time. I find like going to a movie before then is not great because you'll see like a version that's not maybe totally put together yet, and then you start to panic. And then you'll have input on it maybe, and nobody listens to your input anyways. so why even bother? Like, just finish the movie and then invite me then. And then you don't want to go to the premiere having already seen it because you're like, I've already seen this.
And you have to sit through it again and
Yeah.
pretend to laugh at parts that you already know are coming.
No, yeah, I don't want to do that. So I saw it for the first time Monday. I was blown away.
As was I.
I could not believe it. We were talking about this a little bit before, but like the movie, I had done press without seeing the movie a little bit, and I was like, they're like, what's the movie like? And I'm like, it's what you think of it. It's like what women want, only what men want with Taraji. And then I saw the movie, I was like, oh, it's not that at all. It's a really a high level comedy, and Taraji is as good a lead as I've ever seen. And what we talked about, Erykah Badu gives one of the greatest comedic performances.
Erykah Badu comes through with like some voodoo, which is just her lyrics from her song. I was dying.
It's
laughing.
really a breakthrough performance, not unlike Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids. I mean, she is so funny in this movie.
That's why I urge people to make sure they stay for the credits.
I mean, I think
they
the
roll
only
a lot
reason,
of fun stuff.
They roll a bunch of Erykah Badu funny stuff in the credits, and the only reason I think they did that is because she started shooting stuff at some point, and they were like, we don't know what we're watching. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Insane. It is so funny.
It's beautiful.
And the movie in general, I love how it's like totally updated, and obviously it's more female centered, but it just felt like really fresh. And then Taraji's physical humor was just so unexpected and hilarious.
I think it was a real wonderful blend of Taraji and Adam Shankman finding moments where Taraji could commit heavily to the big comedy, and then also dial in the heart of the film. And it's a tricky thing to do, but they sort of figured that out, and it totally works.
So what is next for you? You have so much going on. Are you looking to do more dramatic stuff? Because you nail that as well.
I always look. I've always had conversations like this where you go, well, I'm trying to figure out what's next, and it never works out the way that I think it's going to. So I've gotten jobs or lost jobs, and it has all sort of worked out the way that it's supposed to. So I've stopped sort of planning on what the next move is, and it's really about, to me, I think writing is a huge part of it. You read something that you love, but the thing that I love most is working with other people. And if there are interesting people involved, if there's people who I already know that I love and want to work with again, that seems to be the way to move forward. It's like that. It's like, oh, I want to do that scene with Taraji. I don't know her. I've never acted with her. She's incredible. I want to do that. I want to see how that works.
Something tells me people like to work with you as well. So I know that phone will probably be ringing a lot this year.
I'm kind of a pain in the ass.
I don't actually believe that at all. Before we get out of here, I know our audience has a couple of questions for you.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
So who do we have first? Right here.
Hi, Max. Nice to meet you.
Oh, this looks like it's a hard-hitting question.
Leaned forward.
I know.
So you're best known for playing a hilarious character on a very critically acclaimed sitcom, which, by the way, Winston St. Marie Schmidt is one of my favorite TV show characters of all time.
Love it. Thank you.
But how has that 7-year experience with New Girl impacted and influenced your life, not only as an actor, but also just as an individual?
Oh, my God. Well, I basically was done acting before I got New Girl. I'd pretty much quit. And there was an audition I had right before the New Girl audition after I had quit, which The only reason I wasn't doing something else is because I had given myself no backup plan. I had no skills. I had no trade. I had no schooling. And I was trying to figure out something else to do. And in the meantime, like a couple auditions were like trickling in. And there was one that was right before New Girl, which I was like, I'm perfect for this. And I went in and I read it for the people. And they were like, oh, thanks so much. I go, that can't be the reaction. I'm obviously the guy. And I remember going back and calling my agent, and the agent was like, yeah, they liked you. And I go, and they go, yeah, that's about it. And I go, I'm going to tell them I'd like to come back in. So 2 days, and they were like, I mean, all right. So 2 days later, I went back in. I gave the same audition. They had the same response. And at that point, I was like, I'm now real done. And I remember it just being fully in my mind done. And that next week was the New Girl audition. And you know, I had an incredible audition. The writing on that was so good. So it was easy to be great in it. And it was just one of those moments. So, like, there was a level of confidence that came from that, a huge level of validation, because I had been doing it for so long and had failed so many times before that. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, okay. I had been getting so close on so many different jobs and not getting it. And then to get this one and to receive, you know, such an incredible response was really validating. It just was like nice to know I wasn't crazy. That's basically what it was. And then, and yeah, I mean, it set everything up from there. It's the job that I will always point to as the beginning of everything and the one that I will always be the most grateful for.
Yeah, you did some amazing work.
Oh, thanks.
And characters like Schmidt come around very rarely.
Well, it was really funny. I happened to find the pitch page that Liz Merriweather had put together before she had written the script. Or maybe she had written the script. I don't know. Either or, but like I guess when you're writing a pilot, I don't know that you still do it, but you put together this pitch page, and it's like it's maybe 2 or 3 pages on what the show is, what it's about, where it's going, and then there's these character descriptions, and they're long. And I had found it several years into doing the show, and I remember reading the Schmidt character and being deeply. I don't know what the right word was, but like, oh man, I guess nobody else was gonna get this job. I mean, it was so tailored for the type of comedy I like to do, for the type of human being I am, and I thought, wow. So I thought I was a good actor, and this was just, I got really lucky that like some woman who I didn't know just wrote the weirdest version of me that I don't want to admit is me.
That was going to be my next question. I was like, are you telling us that you are like Schmidt?
There's a lot in there that that I could relate to.
That's a little troubling.
For sure. It was troubling for me, too. It was so funny, because I remember, like, I had gotten the appointment for New Girl, and it said, you can come in for the Nick role or the Schmidt role. And I know you make that face. But I remember my wife and I being like, no, I'm like the the rough and tumble bartender, right? And so it's been like a real learning experience.
That's hilarious. Good question. Next question.
Hi. I just, you touched on it briefly, but what is it like going from, trying so hard to get a job to having the network for the neighborhood saying, we really want to work with this guy, and you're looking for a project just to work on with the
Oh my
network?
God, it really, I mean, you talk about anxiety. Truly. Because New Girl was such an overachievement for me. At that point, I mean, I'd quit acting. I would have taken any job on any show, whether I was right for it or not. It didn't matter. I was like, and obviously, that's not the right approach, especially to create the best product. So New Girl happens. You spend 7 years on the show. You come off of it, and you're in the position of not begging for jobs, but people truly like asking for you to please be in our show, and you have options and decisions to make. And the problem is that you don't feel any different as a human being. And when someone offers me a job now, I mean, my gut reaction is sure, absolutely. It's so hard for me to like step back and say no. It's terrifying because you still feel like the guy that like was please put me in this, or so grateful that you are like having me come in or have asked me to come in and audition, let alone offered me a job. So it's been another learning process for me. There was some times where I thought I might have been dying, and I wasn't, and it was like, oh, this is what physical anxiety is. But now I'm on the neighborhood, and it's all good. It's all good.
Gravy. It's all gravy. Like I said,
It's good for me to be on a steady show because it's like now I can't say no to things because I've already said yes to something that like won't let me out. So it's a good place for me to be.
it's so funny. I feel like I hear that from a lot of actors. It's just like that you work so long. A lot of people almost end up giving up, and then when you do make a hit, you feel like you can't say no.
Oh my God, it's horrible. It's really scary.
No, it sounds.
And then you develop relationships with a lot of people. This business is not like that big a place, and you develop a lot of really wonderful relationships. And the worst thing that you could hear from somebody who you are like, who works and who is hey man, we should get together and like talk about it. And you're like, I don't know that I can do this. I feel like I'm committing already, and this feels so scary. Oh.
Well, I love to see the work continuing to come to you because just sitting here with you is so much fun, and all the characters you've chosen and all the projects you've chosen, it just seems right in that you put a lot of care and focus into it.
I wish that were true. I so appreciate it. I feel like if I take any credit for it, I'd be doing everybody a disservice. I'm like I have wonderful people around me who protect me from myself, and not to totally discredit myself, but like a lot of it has just been really good luck, and also being like a decent person on a set, and like I did a movie called They Came Together. It's on Netflix. It's hilarious. It's David Wayne directed. Michael Showalter wrote it. It's Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler. It's one of my favorite movies. But it was a weird movie. It was a big ensemble, but it was shot in New York, and I was there for a lot of the shooting, even though I had sort of a minor role in it. And I ended up hanging out with Showalter for most of that movie. And we hit it off, and we were just getting along, and it was just like hanging out, just like watching Paul Rudd act a lot. It totally was, and I was like, this is what I'd like to be here to do. And then Showalter and I would hang out, and I would hang out with the producer, and it was just like we were having a great time. And that then led to Michael wanted me to do Hello, My Name is Doris, and I can't tell you how much that happens, where it's just you develop these relationships with people, and it's just like you find people that you work well with, and that's so much of what it is.
So you're not that great.
I'm like, honestly, I'm
it's
like,
cool.
I'm like fine.
Yeah. So like you're fine, but the show you're on is really great.
I'm smart
Yeah.
enough to like lock in with really good people.
Yes, you have on this project. If you guys haven't checked out The Neighborhood, give it a look. It is so much fun, so funny,
Thank
and we'll
you.
start some really fun conversations. I think with a lot of friend groups, like for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So if you want to check it out, it's on Mondays at 8/7 Central on CBS. Give it up for Max Greenfield.